that was making rounds, and I think so far I had 14 questions on the spreadsheet, as you would see shortly. Yep. I don't think I'm a stranger to the house anymore, but I'll introduce myself anyway. That's my background. So it's been a decade or slightly over that we've been in this business, and I operate through a company called Blue Tech Consulting, where I offer business analysis and agile consultancies. In terms of job experience, I've worked for several very popular brands, both within financial services, insurance, and currently within the energy sector, which I am loving as well. I live in Northfleet. My family passion remains anything digital, anything customer expectation, anything user research, anything analytics, anything design. Yeah. My usual ground rules and disclaimers. These are my submissions. They are no means the gold standard. As you would agree with me, there are 1,000 ways to skin a cat. So my submissions, my projections are such that had worked for me, and somebody else might find them useful. And it's okay if we slightly vary on some of my submissions. That's fine. Let's have that conversation. Let's challenge ourselves. Nobody has the monopoly of knowledge or experience. And of course, your peculiar circumstance undoubtedly has a huge impact on how things pan out for you. So lastly, feel free to jump in, challenge, push back, disagree, object, or ask any questions as we go along. Right. Okay, so this is the much that was penciled down. Some of them are not easy questions, but some of them would be a training session in their own rights. And I am of the opinion that we'll take many more questions as we go along. So feel free, if you have any questions that you've not managed to put down here, feel free to drop it in the chat, and Emmanuel would bring it to my attention. Let's just see how far we can go today. It might be we need session. I'm happy to do that as well. Yeah. Are we good? Good.
Yes.
So first question says, business analyst deliverables. What impact? So the expected outcome would be understand how to decide my deliverables, access to such if possible. Wow, that is not a straightforward one. So what I have here is that, and I think this had been discussed. I recall that came up on the platform, on the WhatsApp platform. And okay, let's put it this way. In the last decade, I must have worked on maybe 7, 8, 9 different organizations, different projects. And I can tell you that there are no two places where the requirement, the deliverables, the output were exactly the same. Um, some environments could be such that a BA would have to produce 1,000,000 things, whereas some other environments, it might be much, much fewer. I recall there was once a project, I had to do things like data dictionary, database schema. I had to do database modeling and such likes. I recall I did that once. In some other contexts, I had to do things like a, a business case document. Some other places I didn't even have to. So your organizational context plays a very big role. Maybe where you work, so that you have like a BA practice where you have a standard set of deliverables. That can also influence, of course, that fits into the organizational context. That can also impact on how few or how much or to what extent or the expectation of the project on you in terms of delivery, deliverables, as far as that goes. That's one driver. Another driver could be the nature of the project. If you're migrating a system, it's very unlikely you would need a process map. Very unlikely. If you're doing things that are quite operationally heavy, it may not be customer facing. And as such, some things may not even come to play. For instance, wireframes may not be relevant. Just because it's due to the nature of the project. In some other project or on some other project that is customer facing, then wireframe might be part of your deliverables. So it varies considerably. And the drivers are organizational context. What do they, in fact, so some teams or some projects would be such that the PMO office will have prepared a very massive PID document, project initiation document. And that will comprise of so many things, including the scope. It would answer the what, who, why, when. It would speak to some very high level business requirements. You could have a design document. Again, that's a very verbose word. It could mean something completely different from one context to the other. And that becomes the term of reference for everybody on the project, on the product, or whatever it is. And some other deliverables will now cascade from that massive document. So couldn't stress that enough. There's no universal hope, and I stand to be corrected, of what a BA should produce. The BA, I've had to make notes. As the scribe of meetings, I've had to take notes, which I hate with a passion. But the environment called for me to do that. And sorry, you've got to do it. So the nature of project, if it's data migration, you might not need some deliverables. If it's system migration, you might not need some deliverables. If it's something digital, customer facing, UX design, you might need a ton of other deliverables you might not need in some other kind of project. Then also the audience or the stakeholder would impact or would inform the kind of things you produce. Say, for instance, you you need to communicate something to very high level stakeholders, maybe C-level stakeholders. They just love PowerPoints, and you may terrify them if you give them a massive spreadsheet, for instance. So they want it high level, bullet points. So you just got to understand your audience, how they like to consume information, and pitch whatever deliverables you're bringing about to that level. Now, that being said, this is a broad scope of what you could be producing on any project as a BA, potentially. It could mean slightly different things in certain or different contexts. For instance, on some projects, they could say process maps. Some will say customer journey. There could be impact map. There could be value stream. Of course, the nuances would depend on the environment you find yourself at. But these are high level, likely possible deliverables for a BA. Process maps, customer journeys, business requirements, functional requirements. Some environment would refer to business requirements as high level design or high level requirement. Functional, some will say systems. So I do always emphasize that don't be too hung up on nomenclature. So if somebody says, can you produce a systems design document, you might just need to double check to understand what the intent, what purpose would that document serve? What is the audience that is going to consume it? Because where you were coming from, that same document may have been referred to something else. So don't be afraid to double check and just, validate whether or not you're wrong in your understanding. Non-functional requirements, decision tables, data dictionary, impact assessment, and the list goes on. Really, the list goes on. Yeah. So that's for question 1. Any questions so far? What is a data dictionary? Hold on, let me Jamboard. Can you see my white screen? Yeah? Good. So data dictionary is when you create we offer here databases. Databases are, again, don't quote me on this. Databases are simply tables, queries, views, permissions, and so on and so forth. So let's assume this is your database. Is your customer database, customer record. Now, in this database, you would have tables. Tables are like spreadsheets that define the data object. So first name, last name, address, yada, yada, yada. Now, for a relational database, you would have several tables, and they can relate with each other through what you call primary and second and foreign keys. So this could be customer, this could be sales, another table could be orders, and so on. So there'll be a relationship between them to link them, okay? Now, your data dictionary is where you specify so every table will have a set of attributes. Those attributes will have another layer set of qualities. So for instance, first name is made up of maybe character. That's the data type. Maybe a maximum number of 50 characters. That's the size. Is it mandatory? Yes or no? Okay. Is none allowed? And so on and so forth. So that qualifies that attribute on this table. So the compilation of all of this in detail can make up your data dictionary. It's quite technical, but yeah, entity relationship database and so on and so forth. Clear. Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. So you may be saddled with that responsibility, as I once was. Is customer journey same as user journey? It could mean the same. There's nowhere anybody had defined that. So, and it could be different in another context. So you should check, right? You should always check. But on the face of it, it sounds like the same. Okay, let's carry on. Number 2 question. Oops. I don't know what you're saying. Are you seeing my spreadsheet? Or are you seeing my PowerPoint?
No.
Okay. BA versus technical BA. There was maybe I'll share the link on the platform. I did a write-up on LinkedIn the other day about who is a technical BA. And again, there are no universal definitions. So number one, don't let that put you off. But at times, it may be such that the role might indeed be more technical than usual. And so I've stated 3 things here, such as product specialist, domain specialist, general, technical skill. What else do I have? Okay, I even posted a few roles here. So now what do I mean by this? A job can be advertised as being technical simply because it requires a fairly in-depth knowledge of a particular product. So yes, you are BA, but we need you to have had 10 years experience on SAP, SAP, or on Salesforce, right? So we don't want a generic or an ordinary BA who has done pretty much every other thing. So the product space can qualify a role to make it technical, okay? Then domain as well, technical BA. For instance, mortgages. I didn't know mortgages could be complicated. They are quite complicated products, as you would imagine. And a job opportunity might be such that it requires you to have in-depth or vast number of years of experience in that domain, or even in an industry. So again, it goes back to the notion of a job is as technical as the advertiser would want to make it. There's really no universal definition, or algorithms or checklists, and some other technical BA roles. The only thing you might have to bring to the table in addition to your normal BA role is maybe a skill, or even an advanced knowledge of Excel, or even it could be as mundane as being able to write use cases. So again, no clear-cut, algorithms for deciphering between. It is as technical as what an advertiser makes it. So for instance, this if you look at this job, the first one, look at the job title, technical BA. If you look at this, now the responsibilities is very generic. But if you look at previous experience working in settlement clearing will be beneficial. So this is clearly domain centric. Yeah. And an understanding of VBA programming will also be ideal. So we can say, yeah, maybe a regular BA might run the other way if they saw this. Okay, let's look at the next one. Technical business analyst.net. Knowledge and experience with .NET application. Business analyst could try to be as part of a broad understanding of operational insurance processes. New business renewal, midterm adjustment is desirable. Now you tell me what is technical about that. Yeah, with the exception of .NET application. You could have worked in .NET environment without even knowing that it's got anything to do with .NET. So that is only consequential if you were a developer, So would you say this is technical? Yet another one. My leading investment bank are looking for The following skill and experience is required. Now, okay, so financial product knowledge, these are very strong domain-specific products or concepts. Integration and mapping experience, agile, what you call that, strong SQL and ability to query databases. Yeah. So is very highly subjective. That's all I'll say. I think I was speaking to someone earlier today, and I said to him that don't let all these things scare you. Because yes, in some cases, you would truly have to, have these experiences and you know what you're doing. But in several other cases, you may never have to. Um, I've had jobs that was advertised as needing advanced SQL skills, and all through the job experience, there was nothing of such. I did not even the simplest of queries, you know. So don't let it put you off. Any questions on that before I move on? Any questions? No. Okay. Third one has to do with requirement traceability. I try to give an example here. Requirement traceability simply just means, or um, simply just a notion that for every requirement, every line of code that is written, there's a business imperative for that. Okay. So you have backward and forward traceability. For instance, let's say there's a UKR, OKR, increased customer onboarding by 25% in 3 months. That's a very high level ambition, right? But it's achievable because it put in some numbers. Whatever today's number is, we want to increase it by 25% in 3 months. Okay, so that's quite smart, measurable, time bound. Now, what are the enablers? How can we make this happen? There are three enablers here. One is digital uploading of verification document during the onboarding process. And so that's high level requirement. There's another high level requirement, digital uploading of selfie, digital signature capturing. Those are high level requirement document. Now, for each one of this, it will translate into functional, non-functional requirement. So to make this happen, these are the requirements. So A has the requirement, of course, B would have his own set of requirements, and C would have his own set of requirements. So you can see how this requirement goes back to this, which is backward. So any code, so any code written to fulfill this requirement can be mapped back to that mandate. Okay. So if you're doing anything, say you stop a check as a requirement. Now there's no traceability between this one and this, because this component capability doesn't fulfill this. Yeah, so forward is that from top to bottom, backward is from bottom up. Okay, I'm moving. Yes, role of a BA and SM during release process. Right. Okay, this also varies considerably. I can only tell you the experience I have as a BA and as a Scrum Master during the release process, or if you're going live, or if you're releasing a hotfix or a patch or whatever. Now, what the most will influence your role is what's your delivery process in your environment. Is it something you're involved in, or is something far removed from you as a Scrum Master or as a BA? But you could be doing a number of this or a combination of several of them. From at least before the release process, um, depending on how extensive, some environments, the release process could be within hours or even 30 minutes. Some are done overnight. It takes about, then again, I suppose it depends on what is being released or what is being pushed to a live environment. If we are making, for instance, changes to your put and buy journey or your sales funnel, then you don't want to impact on customers who might be in that process. So it might mean you do it maybe out of hours or out of business hours. But if we saw that you're just doing nothing customer facing, maybe you just resolved some tech debt and you refactored certain code or something quite mundane, and you need to get it to your live environment. I think you might get away with doing that without people even noticing. Okay. So again, widely varied. But again, you could be doing a number of things. What I've done in the past is ensuring I liaise with the relevant work streams so again, maybe your organization, you have a window of releases across all the functions. So you are like a gatekeeper of your own work stream, and the onus is on you to work with other work streams to sequence, just so that you're not breaking anything. It's like I think what I meant by that is, two planes cannot land at the same time on the same runway. There will be a crash. So you like the air controller where you coordinate with all the Scrum Masters or with a delivery manager to sequence who goes first, what lands first. So you could be looking at that. You could be looking at resourcing, your DevOps engineers. You could be ensuring that the environment have been provisioned. Okay, what environment are we? What are the delivery pipelines, and so on and so forth? Do we have the URLs? You could also be, as a BA, you could be in conjunction with a tester, be working on the test data. So we push something to maybe a pre-prod environment. You do a bit of testing, maybe some smoke testing, you do regression testing. You might need some data, test data to be sure that, I mean, just do some sanity check. So ensure relevant teams and stakeholders are informed and carried along. Now, on one of my previous engagements, to do any release, you needed to fill a very big form to change access, change something board. And you needed to do a lot of justification. There are so many gateways, so many checkboxes, operational impact. If it's going to be out of hours, have you liaised with everybody? Is everybody lined up to receive it? Change managers happy with it could be fairly extensive or very straightforward in some other environments. So there's a lot of prep and, pen pushing and governance. And the extent would, again, vary considerably depending on where you work. But I think on the whole, from a BA standpoint, you could be doing any of those, which I've done in the past. And you could be helping a tester. And of course, maybe writing a few UAT script or, test script. Okay, so when you deploy to UAT environment, for instance, we need to do some high-level testing. You may be helping in writing that. There may be a go, no-go call. That will be precedent upon filling certain criteria or otherwise. You may be involved in that as well. Yeah, so that's really it. After the release, coordinate any smoke testing, manage any issues, bug, and go from there. What is go no go? Go no go call is again varies. So maybe you push something to your UAT. UAT is not, in most places, is not your live environment. It could be, I've seen so many configurations from your developer's environment to test environment, maybe it's SIT, to your UAT, then to your pre-prod, and to your production. So it's called staging. Staging is just a way of de-risking to be sure that if this is your end product, if this is the end product, as you put that from test to live environment, you're ensuring that you're not just pushing from test to live. They are staging stage environment that would make you patch any issues. So you just propagate it. Your DevOps engineer does that. So at some point, it could be, usually it would be the last stage before your live environment. Okay, so you put the build to that stage. They've done all the tests. Maybe there is one or two issues. Okay, there's what you call showstopper. So maybe instead of this to be white, it was gray. Okay, so a call would have to be made. And we go to production with the gray instead of white. Somebody would have to make that. Oh, okay, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. Let's push it to live and let's see if there would be any complaints. So you make the call. Go, no go. No go would be, no, we can't go live with spelling mistakes on our website. Okay, so that has to be fixed. Then we go back again. So that build, again, would have to be pulled to dev environment. The bug is fixed. It's deployed to SIT. They do the test. It passes. Then you do the cascade, UAT, prod. Concept of process flow network. I have no idea of what this is about. If you were the one who raised it, you might want to throw more light. Showstopper, okay. Showstopper simply means the bug is bad enough that we cannot risk putting it in live environment. It's go no go called the same as defect ticket. Defect ticket can is applicable across the development and life cycle. It doesn't have to. So, for instance, there's a user story that says, as a customer, I want to be able to do so and so with acceptance criteria. And it was developed, it was deployed, it got tested, and there were errors, bugs. The defect ticket can be raised because of that. Now, somebody would argue, and rightly so, the difference between a bug and a defect. Okay, so that's another argument. A bug usually is, testers, please don't go for me on this one. Is my best. A bug usually is, this should be black, okay, but it turned out to be red. That's a bug. Okay, now a defect is something that was not covered in any of the requirements. Okay, so maybe this was meant to be like this, but it wasn't stated anywhere in the story or in the requirement. So it came out like this. Then somebody said, oh, where is this one? That is a defect. It's not a bug. That's my best explanation. Business readiness and hypercare. Okay, I don't know what that means. I know what business readiness is, depending on the context you're using it. But from release standpoint, before you do that, before you even put anything to live environment, you will have mobilized all the relevant stakeholders, teams. You know, this is coming. Expect this coming your way. Okay. Usually, I remember my backlist days. You have a whole raft of signatories and sign-ups. Okay, if you said this is coming, somebody would have to sign it off because releasing this in the backlist mobile app, for instance, would mean the call centers will be inundated with so many calls. Somebody has to be a step ahead. So if the current capacity of the call center is 100 people dealing with 500 calls, and they emphasize that this would drive the calls up by another 50%. A change acceptance manager may not sign it off, so you can't go live with it, except you convince them that it will not drive up calls. And even in the event that it does, we put this and this and this in place to absorb those calls. Then they can sign it off. Number 5, concept of process flow network. I don't know, whoever wrote this, are you here? And if you are here, can you shed more light on it? Because I have no idea of what that means or represents. Any questions so far? Okay, I'll move on. How do you think like a BA? Oh. Now, a BA is like a cop, right? So a crime is committed and the body is down. Somebody calls 911. The policeman shows up. He wasn't there, but he has a way of asking questions that will lead to some other questions. So he comes on and he says, okay, when did you notice this? It was an hour ago. What drew your attention to it? Did you see anybody go past or around at that point in time? Or I noticed some man, in a hoodie. Okay. Then that lists something else. Again, no formula to it. You perfect your craft with time and experience. Uh, um, Now, if you're starting newly, we've all been there. You'll be terrified of almost asking questions. You want to speak as minimally as possible so that you don't get found out if that is the case. And if you don't have the experience, it could be really, really daunting, especially if you have to deal with, stakeholders that some could be brash and very high level stakeholders. And you don't want to be asking the same question twice. So here is a link to the ladder back and WhatsApp for those who have been joking. So I think my nugget would be ask open questions. Try as much as possible to not ask questions that would, although that has its place, there's no question, but yes or no answer question, can just shut down the conversation. So instead of saying, do you like, what's my favorite food? Do you like something in your sandwiches? Is a yes or no. Why don't you say, how do you like your sandwich? Oh, I like it with this and this and this and this and that. What if I don't have that? Do you like more of this or more of that? You can see how leading and how it branches out. So that is, there's really no formula to these things. But there's some guidance and frameworks that can help you, establish boundaries, what is in scope, what is out of scope. I like the 4 Ws and plus H, when, what, why, where, is a very good framework that you can start with. And what does good look like? And I'll always think of what's the outcome, what's the end game, and work your way back. I can't think of anything else on how to think. And maybe you should see yourself less of a BA and more of a problem solver, because again, that title can can, either limit or constrain your mindset. You're a problem solver. You want to solve a problem. Okay. Real life CRM project and website info. That is huge. So it's not a question, it's a project. How do you manage stakeholders' expectations? You've got to at least identify them first, profile them. What are their interests? What do they bring? What influences do they have? What information do they consume? In what format? How often? What's the engagement model? Are they like one-on-one people? Do they like coming on a call? No two stakeholders are exactly the same. So you spend a bit of time profiling each stakeholder, then you stand a better chance of not only meeting but exceeding their expectations. What's a typical day in the life of a Scrum Master? Could be very quiet. It could equally be very chaotic, depending on what is on ground. Take, for instance, you get to work and the environments are down, or your lead developer does not have access to something, or the laptop is broken, or, it could be anything. So I don't know of a typical day. Usually every day will be different. But suffice to saying that is a combination of meetings, at times firefighting, resolving issues, managing risk, and radiating information and planning. How does BA question status quo? I don't understand that. How does BA question the status quo? Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say in an environment, they print a report. There's a report that is generated on a fairly regular basis. Okay. And I'm trying to think of an example. Use case, and is it the same person asking this question? So the way you question the status quo is, so a status quo because it already exists. What more can you glean out of what already exists? You think in scenario basis. So you begin with the what ifs. Okay, we print this on monthly basis. That has come to me now. Now, what if you cannot print it? What if your printer is down? What if is it only one person that prints it? What if that person is not available? So many things will come out from there, And these are sensible questions that somebody may not have thought of, And out of it can come up other requirements or improvement opportunities. Example of a scenario that will require a use case and when requirement will need a user story. They're both ways of representing requirements. Okay, let's give an example. Use case. With withdraw cash from ATM. I've not done a use case in a long while, but I'll try. So this is a piece of requirement. I want to withdraw cash from a machine. Okay. From use case standpoint, you would have your use case number. You would have your use case description. You'd have your preconditions. Then you have your post condition. Then you have your main flow. Then you have your alternate paths. Then you have your exceptions. Okay. So let's try and populate this. Use case number we know. Description we know. Preconditions. So what would you precondition simply means what must be true for that use case to be fulfilled. Number one, you must have a valid card, bank card. We can go as far as you must provide the correct PIN number. Let's stop there. Post conditions. Cash in your hand. Your bank balance reflects your current balance. Okay, let's stop there. Now, main flow. Main flow is insert card, enter PIN, choose withdraw. Enter number 4. Enter amount. That is this. No. Dispense. Dispense card. Dispense cash. End. As you like, you can take your card if you like, you can leave it there. End. Okay. So are we following? That's the use case. Now, this is one single use case. But if you were to specify this as a user story, it might mean you have to write maybe a few more user stories to break this down. Because your alternate parts might be your unhappy parts, your exception might be unhappy part, which you want to split into different user stories. So if you ask me, and this is my opinion, the debate is unending on the internet. There are strong proponents of use cases. Use case, of course, is part of UML. And so people at times don't see eye to eye when it comes to use cases versus, there's so much debate out there on what's the difference, when do you use one or the other. For me, use case is fantastic to scope the whole thing, because the use case would have detailed the main flow, the alternate part, the exception handling, the conditions, the post condition. That is the whole gamut, right? Now, but if you write this as a ticket and you chuck it on your backlog, the developer might tell you, oh, this will take us 2 sprints, not even 1 sprint to develop. So, my opinion, use case is much at a higher level of abstraction than user stories. Yeah. I don't want to go into writing stories for other, but use cases are usually, at the end of the day, there are ways of specifying requirements. Some environments have this, then they translate this into user stories. I've seen it happen that way as well. I hope that it's clear. Right. Okay. So where were we? Any other questions on that? Okay. Number 7 says real life CRM project. Okay. I think we've touched on that. Managing stakeholder expectation, typical day of a Scrum Master. Business analysis techniques from start to finish of a project. That is a book. Yeah. That is a book on its own. Data modeling, context diagram, entity relationship. Again, this is extensive. But let me try the best I can with context diagram. Context diagram. Where's my whiteboard? So your context diagram is, at times they call it level 0. Now, let's take the ATM machine as an example. And a context diagram could be really, really powerful. So if this, now, what other systems interact with your ATM machine? Please, can you type in? So you have an ATM machine, but what other interactions, what other systems does it interact with? Can you just put it in the chat box? Bank, correct. Server, ATM card. Okay, bank, we have bank. We have PIN, customer, okay. Network, fantastic. Say NCR. We have database will be bank. Printer, so you have bank, you have network. How about the people that load it with money? G45, or what are they called? That security company. Okay. So is it GS4 or G45? GS4? I don't know. I don't remember. G4S, yes. Oops. Oh, so that's your ATM, G4S. So this can help you have an helicopter view of what is interacting with the ATM machine. And people may not cash management system, yeah. So if you have this, then you know what you are up against. Okay. So when we talk about ATM, we're not just talking about what is inside of here, the software for withdrawing and all that, but we have to interface and deal with the network. So there is an interface or integration with the bank. You're printing and somebody has to load it with cash management system. Okay. So that is what context diagram. It helps you see things at there's no coincidence they call it level 0. The level 0 is your context diagram. Do we need to prepare use case in an agile environment? It depends. Does it spoil anything? I don't think so. It depends. I've seen it happen, but your use case does not end up in your product backlog. It could be mapped to an epic, maybe on your Jira, for instance, and you create, sizable, consumable chunks of stories of that. And maybe your use case is domiciled on something like Confluence or your SharePoint. So I don't see why it can't work hand in hand. Again, they are means to an end. They are not ending themselves. The end game is to put before the customer a working software, right? So if a customer sees a new feature on they're not asking if you used Agile or Waterfall, or if you use case to write the stories. So let's not be hung up on all those things. No, it's but don't be hung up on them. Right, so that's your context diagram. Back to the question. Thanks for the responses, by the way. Want to be sure I'm not missed out on anything. Yeah, okay. We've talked about that one. Business strategy analysis. That's big grammar. I don't know that one. Business strategy is completely different. Is at a much higher level because we're talking of strategy here. That being said, you've got very strategic BAs as well, who operate at that very high level. But I suppose it would depend on where you find yourself. But for the vast majority, maybe not. Okay. So we go back to where we were. That question. As a BA, do you manage a dev? How do you manage a dev that undermines my contacting the business directly because they have power? Oh, that was my that was my story at UBS years ago.
Mr. Yinka, the screen is still white.
Oh, okay. So how do you manage a dev that undermines? Yeah, exact the same scenario I witnessed at UBS. I joined the lead BA, but it so happened that the tech lead is very, very paddy with the product owner. And I will get to stand up only to find a new ticket. We use the physical board, only to find out a new ticket on the board or priority has changed. Yeah, that could be very tricky. So, I mean, it would always, of course, come as a rude shock and almost borders on disrespect to you. I didn't know what to do. So I had to tactfully, if I think hard, I'll remember this guy's name. I remember the product owner's name, Frank. Um, I don't quite recall the tech lead's name now. So I had to just parley with him, to the effect that, hey, I know this is far from being ideal, but I understand the dynamics of what goes on. It was almost acting as a BA for upon the time I joined the team. So they were used to that bad practice. So I said, you know what? I know this rapport exists between you and Frank, but if you could just do me a favor, when anything changes, just let me know. Okay? Give me a heads up. Um, Not necessarily because I want to challenge, but I could just cast another pair of eyes on it and call out a few scenarios that may not have been accounted for. So it was a gradual, painful process of building rapport and building trust. It took a while before it would let go completely. But it's not a nice place to be, especially if you're coming in as a contractor and the players in this are permanent staff. you know, they've worked together for years. They know each other very well. So you coming on to usurp might be a tricky one. Again, no direct answers to this, no formula to it. You just have to give it whatever it takes. Some would say, oh, go hard on it, call it out, scream, shout. It may work for you, but it may spectacularly backfire equally. Yeah, so because there's just more to, and I tell people, I say it all the time, the easiest part of being a BA, I kid you not, the easiest part is writing the requirement. That's the easiest part. The most challenging, the trickiest, the most perilous part is dealing with the people involved. You know, you can be an expert. You could be writing requirements in your sleep. You know, you could have all the qualifications, you could have all the experience. You know, you may be able to write requirements better than ChatGPT, but if you don't play the game well, yeah, it could truncate. Yeah. So this is a classic. I mean, it's a classic interview story. I mean, interview question as well. Tell me a time you had to deal with maybe a difficult stakeholder, or you had to use your negotiation skill, or you had to win somebody over. You know, there's no formula to it. So this will be the analysis of a few things. What's the temperature? What's the dynamics? You know, and just do what works best for you. How do you play? How do you play the game well? Any clues? You okay? Let me let you into something. I'm a straight shooter. Um, I'm very apolitical. Naturally, I'm good at what I do functionally, but I don't like sucking up. I feel my work should speak for me. And if it's not enough, end of story. So that was my mentality for a long while. I just want to do my work, do it well, to speak for me. I'm not sucking up. I don't have time for all those paddy, you know, and all that. But I got to learn that that won't take you far, you know. It won't. That's the truth. So, I mean, and maybe you've noticed in organizations, people who are much less competent are just getting all the passes, getting all the props, getting all the promotions, getting all the recognitions. They don't know half of what you know. They don't do half of what you do. But guess what? They do well. They network. They they know how to, you know, caress, massage the necessary egos. You know, they are in good graces of the people that matter and the people that be. And you just see they're renewing their contracts every 6 months before they even, and you that you're slaving away, they'll give you reasons and say, job is finished. So that soft skill, maybe one can learn it. Yeah, things like Toastmasters and all that can help. So, but I kid you not, most people don't get extensions, don't get don't pass probations most of the time, not necessarily because functionally they crap. No, it's just because, yeah. So long as you want to keep a 9 to 5, it's part of the game. Sorry. Peace, whatever. Yeah, how do you manage? Yeah, after I've talked about that. The art of requirement elicitation. I think I touched on this earlier as well. Start with the outcome in mind and work your way back. So am I clear about this? Somebody called me, or I got talking with somebody this week. Oh, she's fairly new, and she was relating with me challenges. And I said to her, okay, you tell me in your own words, what is the overarching goal and objective of what you're doing? You know, I told her mine that, okay, this is what we want to achieve. This is the problem statement. And that's what we would like to overcome. And this is what good looks like. If you are not able to do that in 3-4 sentences, you might struggle. Okay. So when you're on any project, by the first, second week, ask yourself, am I able to tell a story of what this is about? Am I able to describe what good looks like? If you're not able, then you have a gap. And that gap can spell your undoing later on. So what does good look like? Who needs to contribute? Who is going to be impacted? Because the answers to these questions are either requirements in themselves or leading to requirements. And so on and so forth. What do I need to produce in order to align and get the necessary buy-in? How do I present the requirements relevant? On this, those are the act of elicitation. And what techniques do you use? It will amaze you. We talk of workshop. I've hardly done a workshop, you know. So again, don't be hung up on all of these nomenclatures and all that. And I think that's my last slide, which is a repeat actually. Guys, that is it from me. Any other questions or thoughts? Or
Hi, my name is Charles.
hey, Charles.
Yeah, thanks for this inciting session. It keeps improving knowledge. So my question comes this way. Yeah, traditionally, just like what you showed us concerning the technical and non-technical BA. So in some projects, you get to see things like, or not some projects, in some job descriptions, quite heavy on things about you've got to know a bit about Salesforce. You got to at least know something about data migration. You got to know about data literacy, DevOps, things like that. And basically, they are not in the space of a BA, to my own understanding. Yeah. However, you're expected to know something about it. So what do you advise someone who just want to have a grasp of this knowledge so that at least when you're talking about it, probably not just talking from a layman's view, but you'll be able to contribute. Yeah. And you'll be able to, just like what you say, that after the first 2 weeks of the project when the project starts and you're not able to know the happy place of the project in 4 sentences, you might struggle. So what you advise to have a grasp of this so that even if as the project is going in various domains or space, you will be able to have insight of what is happening and be able to put a hand on them. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try my best to answer that. One, you can't possibly know everything. There are a million things out there. That's the truth. I had a conversation with somebody today. I've got a decent amount of years of experience. And I also put all of that in one CV, for instance. Then you will question me, and the question would be, who exactly are you? Are you a BA? Are you a product owner? Are you a Scrum Master? Are you an Agile coach? Or what exactly? Because I've done a bit of a lot. I wouldn't say I'm a specialist in anything, but if push comes to shove, I can wiggle my way around just about anything. I started off as a developer. I've done database administration and development back in the day, straight out of uni. So I have a very solid tech grounding. I mean, it serves you well. Do I use it on every project? No. If I have to use it, I just go to Google. If I have to, for instance, write a fairly complicated query that queries like 3 or 4 tables with some complicated join, inner join, outer join. I don't know it now. Well, I will string it up with the help of Google and a bit of me knowing where to look at. Right. So back to your question. One, you can't know everything, and two, you really can't. You really don't know or have control on what is coming. So today might be data, tomorrow it might be cyber, next tomorrow it might be cloud. Day after next tomorrow it might be some weird platform, Charles River. The day after then it might be, Salesforce. Okay. So, and you can't possibly pack all of these things on your CV. Let me, you know it. Right? You can't possibly. So where do you start from? I really can't answer that, to be honest. But I think it's a safe bet. And this is my personal sentiment. If you know enough about data, it can only help. It can harm you, right? So maybe that's because when you look at applications, right? If you go, let me go back to my board. when you look at application, whatever helps. Yeah. So this could be your web, this could be your mobile, whatever application you're using, right? There's a server somewhere. This server interacts with data. So most things you've seen on your web, your drop down is coming from here. So there's no information systems without data. Now, on top of all this, we can begin to talk of security, cyber and all that. Okay? But this is something we can do without, yeah, because websites, systems still get hacked today. Okay? But you can have an application or a system without, if there's no data, there's no information system. It's as simple as that. Except it's some static website, where the content, if a content management system would have a database, you know. So on top of your usual business skills, and if you want to kind of add something on top of it, I would recommend, strictly my bias, you can take it or leave it. I would, no, not database per se. I would say more anything data analysis. So know what a table is, know what attributes, know what a primary key is, know what a foreign key is, know what it means when they say normalization. Then, yeah, if you want to now take a step further, you learn a bit of SQL, select from social table where customer ID is 666. Get familiar with things like that. So I don't think hot, you know, um, because if you understand a bit of this, then maybe anything CRM, because there's so much talk about data model in CRM. It's all driven by data model. So if you do nothing else and you just again, the good thing is there's so many free resources online. Then again, one other skill I would recommend is, your agile skill. They know how to use either Jira or ADO. This is my preference any day. Now, because continuous learning can only help, but you really don't, especially if you're starting out. The brutal truth of the matter, I was having this conversation with somebody earlier, is that I think the era of regular BA is dying. You can, I mean, you do your research, and if a job description is very regular, very ordinary, very basic, then 500 people have applied for it. You weigh your chances in that context. As soon as they add SQL, Excel, then this number dropped to 100. If they now add knowledge of APIs, it drops further to 50. So you can see how, even if it's basic knowledge you have in some of those things, you can see how it makes you even more competitive. I think that's all I can say. But having said that, again, it's still not a guarantee. It's still not a guarantee. But if we are playing strictly by a game of number, which we are, whether or not we like it, then you've got to increase your odds somehow.
Thank
I
you.
hope that.
Yes. Thank you very much. Because a bit of a scenario for me is I am transitioning into this BA space, having been a supply chain specialist who has over time worked with things like Microsoft AX, and now we see Microsoft Dynamics moving to D365. So from my finding, I discovered that one is remote access based, and the other is just having things in, because we are going into the cloud computing now, and which has three phases of both the sales, operations, and name it come to it. So that is why I'm asking this kind of question, because you see loads of job descriptions coming up with, your knowledge of Salesforce, D365 and name it. But with this, I think is very insightful.
And indeed, and if you already have a brush with Salesforce, well, it was one of my contemplations in the past. I wanted to go very hard on, we prefer Salesforce to Dynamics, but you can see the case for Dynamics, and it's gaining serious ground. And one of the strongest point of Dynamics is the fact that it integrates seamlessly with other Microsoft products. So being the Outlook, be it, all the other applications. So you can see there was one time I worked on a Salesforce implementation from the ground up, and I fell in love with it. And I wanted to just double down, do the exams, be a functional consultant, Well, I guess whilst I was doing that, something else came up and I got distracted. So if you ask me, I would say the people that would be most relevant, that would be most assured, that would be in a situation where they can change jobs much easily, will be those specialist beings. If you're going data, go hard. If you're going cloud, go hard. If you're going cyber, go, if being an ordinary BA, somehow it doesn't quite cut it anymore. Yeah, but I can tell you the direction you want to go. I mean, you could just land your first job and an environment where you can really develop into CRM space, or even in the product space, maybe mortgages or some like there's this very what's it called? SQL by Eclipse. Eclipse by SQL. Eclipse is the most widely used platform within the Lloyd's of London market, reinsurance market. And if you're a specialist in that, so there are so many things, so many options. The environment they find themselves might inform the route or route eventually take. But because we won't all have the same journey, we all have to figure out. Yeah. So can one combine BA and data analyst to make, why not? Why not? Now, again, it depends on how you want to play. You might not be strong enough to present yourself as a data analyst, strictly. Because a data analyst is a much more specialist person than a BA with data analysis experience. They are two different things. A BA who is vast in data analysis is different from a data analyst. On the surface of it, on the face of it. Would you differentiate between business analyst and business information manager? Business information manager. Business analyst, we know. Business information manager could be some old fat dude who sits in an office and who doesn't do much but attend meetings and throws himself around, and collects a fat salary. That could mean anything. Sorry. Yeah, that could mean anything. I don't know. I hope that was helpful. If anyone else has a question. Emmanuel, I think I'll hand it back to you. I don't suppose there's any other thing.
Okay. Oh, there's another question.
When you said urgent, okay, does it include having a strong domain knowledge? For example, in my own case, an experienced financial analyst. That's not an ordinary BA. That's not an ordinary BA. If you have a domain financial analysis, again, depending on what that means, because that could mean an FA, somebody who understands things like investment instruments, market, and so on, I suppose. That's quite specialist. So I don't think that's generic. What is the role of a BA in Scrum? Okay, so if we are truthful with ourselves, the Scrum guide does not provide for a BA role. So BA role, as we know it, is performed by a product owner in agile plans. Again, they say Scrum guide is named guide. There's a word guide in the Scrum guide, and as such, the onus is on you, me, organizations to use it and to adapt it to fit their own purpose. So let me do I like illustrating a lot because I feel that resonates better with my audience. So imagine you have, this is a squad. You have a BA here, you have another BA here. This is a proper team, right? And you could have a PO managing the product backlog of these two teams. Okay. And in fact, you could have just one squad with a PO and a BA on the team. But I don't like this configuration because you could be stepping on each other. So prefer this classic PO plus SM plus team. That's the way it's defined in Scrum Guide. So I write my stories as a PO, I prioritize the backlog. I rally the team around the vision. I manage stakeholders. But what you find is you have a PO, a BA, PO is dumping stuff on the BA is fleshing it out. The PO is prioritizing it, reviewing it, signing off the acceptance criteria, and so on and so forth. But again, depending on the organization. Where I work now is a funny one. So this is my team. You have a product manager, you have a BA, no Scrum Master. Scrum Mastering is shared between BA and a PM. And you have somebody in some remote part of the world that calls himself a PO, like the SME. The anti-pattern it is. Does it work? It does work. So the fact that this person doesn't call himself a PO, is any police coming to arrest them? I don't think so. Yeah. What is the role of a BA? Yeah. So, BA again depends. Well, traditionally, a BA articulates requirements. PO owns the vision, owns the backlog, prioritizes the backlog. Great workshop. Thank you. Financial analyst for me is a banker from Nigeria. I have, is that a B? Is that? is a banker from Nigeria. Again, I was a banker too. I don't know if things have changed, but up until 2004, when I left Nigeria, we all threw ourselves around as bankers, but it's so different from this environment. The bankers here are those who work in Liverpool Street. They are the investment bankers, the traders. So if you went into any high street, Barclays Bank, they are just customer service. They don't call themselves bankers. Of course, financial analyst is something very, very specialist as well. Is that an ordinary BA? I don't know. So can a BA now apply for a product owner role? Okay. I think the question is, can a BA do the job of a product owner? Yes. Now, can you apply? Not if you have your job designation, because it's a very equal market and recruiters don't know any better. For the most part, they don't know their left from their right. And so they just parrot whatever is put in front of them. So if the job says we need a product owner with 5 years experience, and you only have 1 year experience with a job title product owner, but the other 4 years, your job title is BA, but you are actually fulfilling a product owner role, they may still not consider you, may even not shortlist you, because the job title doesn't reflect. So those are the nuances of the job market and how you can package it. Experience in retail, commercial, corporate banking. I believe it should work. In a financial, apart from the technology, I mean, worked in accounting, finance, blah, blah, blah. Also worked, yeah, just to throw in a bit, okay. Yeah, I think there's a way you can bring about all of this. And I haven't said that, yeah, you'll find some BA roles that quite amplifies accounting background. People that can work on balance sheets and P&L. I mean, those things would resonate. So it's good skill, and it's not to be trivialized. We've got 5 minutes. I hope everyone has been able to take away something, however little. Yep. Thanks for, as always. So we'll see how things pan out, and that should inform the next session I put myself forward on. Thank you. Emmanuel, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Yinka. That was a very insightful session. I'm going to drop the WhatsApp group chat link in the chat for anybody that hasn't joined. So if you click, it will take you into the ladder back down. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their evening as well.
One last one. No, one last one.
Yeah, one last question.
There's a last question. So can a BA take a Scrum certification? Now, let me talk about certification just for a minute. If you're newly starting out, right, I recommend you read Business Analysis Techniques by Deborah Media Debra something, 4th edition. Now, when you've done that, I would advise you take the Agile Foundation exam, BCS. You will smash it. That will look good on your CV. At least that demonstrates that you have a good grasp, albeit maybe theoretically, of agile methodology, agile way of working. And that will cover anything Scrum. Yeah. If you want to throw in the BTS, Business Analysis Foundation, they don't cost much. So if you have those two, it could make your CV stand out. Yeah, but that is about as useful as it can be. It means nothing when you get on the job, except for the fact that you are familiar with the lingo. But trust me, this agile thing, you've seen ridiculous things bundled around in the name of agile. Yeah, so that's the last one. I think. That's the thing. Please, can you put the chat box? Oh, let me see. I can very quickly. Now, this is